Let's talk about medieval Japan and let's talk about samurai. We will be taking notes the same way as usual, Cornell notes. On the left-hand side, that's where your keywords will go. The bulk of your notes will go in the middle. Don't worry about the summary right now. We'll do something in class. Topics today will include the rise of feudalism, the Onin Wars, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Tokugawa Ieyasu, castle cities, and the 47 Ronin. Let's start off with the rise of feudalism. For 400 years, the emperor gave the power to help rule Japan to the Fujiwara clan, powerful military clan. Now, it sounds like a centralized government, but really, many warlords or many daimyo out in the provinces were left to their own devices. And so 400 years, the Fujiwara clan got rich off running Japan. Many of these rival warlords felt that this was abuse of their power, and civil wars started breaking out all over. One such civil war led to a battle between two powerful clans, the Tara and the Minamoto clan. The Minamoto clan was able to take over and defeat the Tara, which, of course, was supported by the emperor. Now, the emperor's family was rather large, and the emperor at this time was, I think, 8 years old. Instead of surrendering to the Minamoto clan, the emperor himself jumped off a cliff into the water and drowned, thus needing a new emperor. He's got a big family, so that wasn't too hard. Now that the emperor was gone, he's been replaced with one of his family members. Minamoto Yoritomo becomes the first military leader of Japan, and he's called the shogun. And this is going to take the power away from one individual clan and put it into the power of a general, a leading general. Now, again, it's still not a very centralized government. You still have warlords and daimyos all over the coastline, all over Japan, with their own armies, but they do show respect to the shogun. Now, this is how society ended up under this new military government. Of course, at the top of society, you'd have the emperor. Being that he's the emperor, you would think he's in charge, but most of his life he spent working on being a good Buddhist, poetry, social efforts. Whereas the shogun ran Japan, or at least the military aspect of Japan. And because he had that kind of power, he had the ability to tax the people around him. Below the shogun were many warlords, also known as daimyo. Now, Japan is divided into many different provinces, and each province has its own noble or daimyo, and they showed their allegiance to the shogun. Now, the daimyo protected their individual provinces with samurai. Samurai were specially trained Japanese warriors. And below the samurai were the peasant class. Now remember, the government isn't centralized. It's not very powerful. Every daimyo has its own army. And the daimyo promised their loyalty to the emperor, and they promised their loyalty to the shogun. But it's not a very powerful promise. And when push comes to shove, they make their own choices. Now, the daimyo are able to get the samurai to respect them by offering them land, by offering them power. And in exchange, the samurai will fight for the daimyo and provide him with loyalty. This feudal contract is the basis of Japan's society at this point in time. As the shogun gave land and power to the daimyo, and the daimyo, of course, gave service and loyalty to the shogun. The samurai did the same thing for the daimyo. 100 years goes by, and we have a problem. The Mongols decide they want to invade Japan. Unsuccessfully, Japan happened to be saved twice by a typhoon, as the Mongol invasion twice again were wiped out. But this, of course, mobilized Japanese military. And this mobilized Japanese military needed to be paid, and when they weren't paid, many of the samurai and daimyo were very upset, and they rebelled. They rebelled against the shogun, and so Japan, instead of being a united front, broke into 66 different provinces or different countries, all virtually at war with each other. We call this war the Onin Wars, and this is a major civil war within Japanese history. It'll start to come to an end around the mid-1500s when a Portuguese boat gets washed ashore. The sailors were trying to get to China and they got lost, and they bring with them a new invention: guns. Toyotomi Hideyoshi was a general slash warlord who not only used the new guns to his advantage, but he also used sneak attack and negotiation to get daimyo to support him, to get other clans to support his leadership as the general of Japan. And by the 1590s, he could say that he was in charge of, or at least had control over, military-wise, half of Japan. By the 1600s, he was so powerful that he decided to send an army off into Korea and even into China, and he invaded and conquered Korea. After his death, many of his supporters, many of the daimyo, the warlords who supported him, all wanted his job. They all wanted to be shogun. And of course, fighting broke out again. One of his most powerful warlords was a man named Tokugawa Ieyasu. And Tokugawa Ieyasu will come in with force and with power and make the daimyo follow him. He's going to pass laws to keep the daimyo from gathering large armies. He's going to make them have to live in the capital with him so he can keep an eye on them. And when they leave the capital to go to their own city, he's going to send secret police with them. So if he gets a word that they're trying to rebel against him, he'll have the whole family wiped out. At the same time, he's also trying to control outside influence from interfering with Japanese culture. He's going to ban Christianity, and he's going to regulate the amount of people that are allowed in and out of Japan. For example, the Dutch, who are the only Europeans that are going to be allowed to trade, the Spanish will be kicked out of Japan because they were mostly focused on bringing missionaries. The Dutch, not interested in converting people, just interested in trade, they're only going to be allowed to bring 2 ships a year. At the same time, he's trying to move Japan from a military society into a social society. Keep in mind, he is the leader of Japan, but he still doesn't have 100% control. Most of the daimyo are still in control of their large castle city towns, and most of the samurai are loyal to their daimyos. War ends, castles lose their purpose as military instruments. They now become homes for the samurai, and they become the capital buildings of the individual cities. So administration, government administration, taxes will all happen in these castle towns, these castle buildings. Between the towns and on their way to the capital of Edo, roads will be built. People will have to have passports to travel around. And of course, along these roads, smaller towns will be built. The samurai who are no longer fighting are starting to find that they can they enjoy this new lifestyle, this leisure lifestyle, and they enjoy being able to buy products. So these samurai who are getting compensated for their policing of society slowly become the ruling class of Japan. Now the samurai follow a code, an honor code called Bushido. And this code says that they need to be loyal. They need to provide service to their master. It's really difficult to provide service to your master when there's no more war and your master is starting to run out of money. So samurai are finding themselves becoming poor as society moves more towards a social instead of a military society. Because samurai are regulated under honor codes, they're not allowed to have any other jobs except for working for the daimyo. They can't own a restaurant. They can't do any job except being military. And this becomes very frustrating to them. But they hold tight to their honor. They hold tight to their duty, their responsibility. One such crisis is exemplified in the story The 47 Ronin. As this is a true story, one daimyo tricks another noble into pulling out his sword in the presence or in the capital, in the presence of the shogun. And of course, this is looked down upon, and honor dictates if you do that, the lord needs to commit seppuku or ritual suicide. And in the process, his samurai followers, his soldiers, were then disbanded. They were told they were no longer samurai. Now, you still under that social class of being a samurai, but now you can't get a job, and now you're starving. I mean, what do you do? Now, these samurai without a lord, they're called Ronin. And these Ronin take it upon themselves to sneak into the noble who tricked their master into his castle one night, and they chop his head off. They then go back to the capital and say, yes, this is what we did it, and we did it as part of our loyalty to our master. Now, what do you do if you're the emperor? You can't let samurai do this kind of thing, even though they're following the code of Bushido. But you don't want to say Bushido's not a good thing, because they want to keep this whole traditional Japanese culture alive. In the end, it becomes a major national debate where the shogun finally says, okay, we understand that you did it out of loyalty to your master, so you'll be permitted to commit seppuku. And these 47 former samurai commit ritual suicide. To the Japanese people, they were viewed as heroes, that they died for honor. And this is the kind of thing, as Japan starts moving out of this military society, you're going to have a conflict between merchants and samurai and the government. By the time Admiral Perry shows up in the late 1800s, Japanese society is being transformed into a more modern society, and the old ways will have to go. Thank you for listening.